Los seres de sabiduría regresan a sus mansiones celestiales. Los seres de compromiso se disuelven en mí. El mérito de esta virtud puede alcanzar rápidamente el estado de Aryatara y llevar a todos los seres sintientes sin excepción a ese estado iluminado. Como árbol que concede deseos, recipiente enjollado, eres el tesoro que cumple todos los deseos y satisface toda esperanza. Conquistadora Madre Tara, todos los conquistadores y sus hijos, cuiden de mí y otórguenme los signos auspiciosos de incremento en su virtud.
Long life prayer for Rinpoche.
Okay, we can do it. Ok, vamos a hacer entonces la oración de larga vida de Yansi Rinpoche y recordando siempre a otros maestros que enseñan el Dharma a través del mundo. Madre Tare liberando del samsara, tu Tare liberando de los 8 temores, Tara Madre que libera, por favor otorga el don de la longevidad, por las bendiciones de los gurús del raíz y del linaje, por los logros espirituales de los Yidam, dioses y diosas, por los métodos hábiles de las dakinis y los protectores del Dharma, que podamos realizar gozosamente la esencia de nuestras esperanzas. Gendun Tersis, eres afable, benevolente y bondadoso. Por favor, permanece con nosotros durante una larga vida. Expande tus actividades iluminadas en todas las direcciones y continúa madurando y sustentándonos a mí y a todos los seres sintientes. Desde este momento y durante todas nuestras vidas, manténnos bajo tu tutela. Sé nuestro amigo, nuestro divino y virtuoso guía. Limpia la degeneración de la ignorancia. Ayúdanos a realizar rápidamente nuestro recorrido por los senderos y caminos y alcanzar los 3 cuerpos de un Buda, por la verdad de la realidad incambiable y por la bendición conjunta de la indestructible Sangha, que la esencia de estas oraciones se logre rápidamente.
Okay. Thank you for your patience. I know it might be hard for some of you to do this, but it's a good thing to do. So it's 4 o'clock. I'm perfect for, so we'll have a break for half an hour and we'll come back at 4:30 to do the meditations on the nature of mind and answer questions after that. Okay? Well, they probably won't have the questions till after you do the meditation, so we'll just leave it for today. What you usually do, okay?
Vamos a las oraciones antes y después. Y vamos a hacer lo que usualmente hacemos. Ok. Lo tengo prendido, que me lo tengo que pegar. Que vamos a las oraciones antes y después. Y vamos a hacer las oraciones que mayormente estamos haciendo cuando tenemos, ¿verdad?, un visitante. Empezamos con la alabanza al Buda Shakyamuni. ¿Okay? Maestro, destructor de enemigos, has sido Buda completa y perfectamente despierto, dotado con sabiduría y conducta ejemplar, ido al gozo, timenero que guía a los seres ordinarios que aún deben ser domados, Ser Supremo, Maestro de todos los dioses y los hombres, Buda, destructor de enemigos, glorioso y victorioso Ser Shakyamuni, ante ti me postro y a ti voy por refugio. Maestro, destructor de enemigos, has sido Buda completa y perfectamente despierto, dotado con sabiduría y conducta ejemplar, ido al gozo, timonero que guía a los seres ordinarios que aún deben ser domados, Ser Supremo, Maestro de todos los dioses y los hombres, Buda, destructor de enemigos, glorioso y victorioso Ser Shakyamuni, ante ti me postro y a ti voy por refugio. Maestro, destructor de enemigos, has sido Buda completa y perfectamente despierto, dotado con sabiduría y conducta ejemplar, ido al gozo, timonero que guía a los seres ordinarios que aún deben ser domados, Ser Supremo, Maestro de todos los dioses y los hombres, Buda, destructor de enemigos, glorioso y victorioso Ser Shakyamuni, ante ti me postro y a ti voy por refugio. Leemos el Sutra del Corazón de la Perfección de la Sabiduría. Así lo oí. Una vez el bendito estaba residiendo en Rayagrilla, en la montaña llamada Pico del Buitre, junto a una gran asamblea de monjes y una gran asamblea de bodhisattvas. En ese momento el bendito entró a Samadhi, que expresa el Dharma, llamado iluminación profunda, y al mismo tiempo el noble Avalokiteshvara, el bodhisattva Mahasattva, mientras practicaba la profunda perfección de la sabiduría, vio lo siguiente. Vio que los 5 skandhas son de la naturaleza del vacío. Entonces, por el poder del Buda, el venerable Shariputra le preguntó al noble Avalokiteshvara, el bodhisattva Mahasattva, ¿cómo debe entrenar un hijo o una hija de familia noble que quiere practicar la profunda perfección de la sabiduría? Entonces el noble Avalokiteshvara, el bodhisattva Mahasattva, le contestó al venerable Shariputra, oh Shariputra, un hijo o una hija de familia noble que desea practicar la profunda perfección de la sabiduría debe practicar así, viendo lo siguiente, que los 5 skandhas son de la naturaleza del vacío. La forma es el vacío también es la forma. El vacío no es otra cosa que la forma no es otra cosa que el vacío. De la misma manera, los sentimientos, las percepciones, las formaciones mentales y la conciencia también son el vacío. Por lo tanto, Shariputra, todos los dharmas son el vacío. No existen las características, no existe el nacimiento ni la cesación. No hay impureza y no hay pureza, no hay merma ni hay aumento. Por lo tanto, Shariputra, en el vacío no hay forma, sentimiento, percepción, formación mental ni conciencia. No hay ojos, oídos, nariz, lengua, cuerpo o mente. No hay apariencias, ni sonidos, ni olores, ni sabores, ni tacto, ni dharmas. No hay datus de los ojos y así hasta el datus de la mente y conciencia. No hay ignorancia ni fin de la ignorancia hasta la vejez y la muerte. No hay fin de la vejez y de la muerte. No hay sufrimiento ni origen del sufrimiento. No hay cesación del sufrimiento, ni sendero, ni sabiduría, ni logro, esencia de logros. Por lo tanto, Shariputra, ya que los bodhisattvas no tienen logro, moran en la profunda perfección de la sabiduría. Como no hay oscuración en la mente, no hay tampoco temor. Trascienden lo falso y alcanzan el nirvana total. Todos los budas de los 3 tiempos, a través de la práctica de la profunda perfección de la sabiduría, despiertan completamente a la iluminación insuperable, verdadera y total. Por lo tanto, el gran mantra de la profunda perfección de la sabiduría, el mantra de la gran percepción, el mantra insuperable, el mantra inigualado, El mantra que calma todo sufrimiento debe ser conocido como la verdad, ya que no contiene falsedad. El mantra de la profunda perfección de la sabiduría es Tayata Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhisoha. 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 Por lo tanto, Shariputra, el Bodhisattva Mahasattva debe entrenarse en la profunda perfección de la sabiduría. Entonces el bendito salió del Samadhi y elogió al noble Avalokiteshvara, el Bodhisattva Mahasattva, diciendo: bien dicho, así es, oh hijo de noble familia, así es. Se debe practicar la profunda perfección de la sabiduría, así como has explicado, y todos los Tathagatas se regocijarán. Cuando el bendito dijo estas palabras, el venerable Shariputra y el noble Avalokiteshvara, el Bodhisattva Mahasattva, y toda la asamblea de dioses, humanos, asuras y gandharvas se regocijaron y alabaron las palabras del bendito. Hacemos la ofrenda del mandala breve. Esta tierra ungida con perfume y regada de flores, con el monte Mero, los 4 continentes, el sol y la luna. Vista como tierra pura de Buda, yo te ofrezco que todos los seres puedan gozar de una tierra así. Oh sagrado y venerable Dama, desde las nubes de compasión que se forman en los cielos de tu sabiduría dharmakāyica, por favor derrama una lluvia del Dharma vasto y profundo, de acuerdo precisamente con las necesidades de los que serán adiestrados. Idam Guru Mandalatam Niryatayami. Ahora tomamos refugio. Voy por refugio hasta alcanzar la iluminación, al Buda, al Dharma y a la Asamblea Suprema, por los méritos que acumule practicando la generosidad y demás perfecciones que pueda obtener el estado de Buda para beneficiar a todos los seres. Voy por refugio hasta alcanzar la iluminación, al Buda, al Dharma y a la Asamblea Suprema, por los méritos que acumule practicando la generosidad y demás perfecciones que pueda obtener el estado de Buda para beneficiar a todos los seres. Voy por refugio hasta alcanzar la iluminación, al Buda, al Dharma y a la Asamblea Suprema, por los méritos que acumule practicando la generosidad y demás perfecciones que pueda obtener el estado de Buda para beneficiar a todos los seres.
Okay, this works. Could we? Are you a little cold? I feel a little cold. Maybe we could, maybe not make the air conditioner so cold. Yeah. We don't need to get sick. Okay. Okay. Well, now we're going to change gears completely, and today I didn't want to do a lot of talking. I just wanted to do some more practice. So I guess why do we want to meditate on the nature of mind, right? First of all, we have to understand that there is the relative nature of mind and the ultimate nature of mind. And I think a lot of you here have already, is problem? Can't hear it? Some problem? No? Yeah. Yeah. So in Buddhism, when we talk about Buddhist philosophy and the nature of reality, we always have the two truths, right? We all know, most of us have studied the two truths, which means that everything has an ultimate reality and a relative reality. And I don't want to get into too much, but the relative reality, some people make the mistake thinking that what we see is actual conventional reality. But what we experience isn't even conventional reality. What we experience, Jeffrey Hopkins calls truth for a jerk. Truth for a jerk. Because what we see doesn't really exist at all. What we see is things appearing to exist outside, right? Existing from their own side. We've heard all that before. And so even when we look at the mind, you know, when we get to come to the conventional nature of mind, it appears to exist from its own side. But it's important to even to experience that before we can experience the empty nature of mind. And so what is the relative nature of mind? And that is what the Dalai Lama and all the Buddhists say, is basically that the thoughts appear within the context of the relative nature of mind. In other words, when we hear the teachings like thoughts are like a reflection in the mirror, or like the reflection of the moon in water, basically we have this basic mind, which is like the mirror, okay? And when our thoughts come, they come within that, and they go back into that, right? So that basic mind is the Dalai Lama, or there are many words, but I think the easy way to think of it is it's formless, it's clear, it has clarity, you know, and it has the capacity to know. So if you want to remember the three, it's formless, clear, and knowing. And so it's the knowing is our, you know, we can think, we can do things. And it is the clarity of mind that is what manifests as thought or as emotion. And then the formless part is just like that base that it comes from, out of, you know. And so what we want to do in our meditation is begin to, when we start meditating, right, we watch thoughts come and go, right? And we are told in the beginning of Mahamudra practice that we shouldn't push thoughts away. We should just look at the nature of the thought, which is its clarity, right? And then what happens is when you advance, in the beginning you just think, there's no space between the thoughts, right? But a lot of teachers say that eventually you see the gap between, there's a space. There's a time when the thoughts come and they go back down, and there's a little bit of space where there's no thought. Okay, that's the relative nature of mind, when there is no thought happening. But there's still an experiencer experiencing space, experiencing clarity. So what's that experiencer, right? That's still another more subtle level of thinking, of mind. And so when we get into think about, non-duality and, so eventually we want to experience the emptiness of the object, which is this mind that is not without the thought or with the thought. And then the subjective, which is, the perceiver, like that is also empty. But in the beginning, the first step, it's just good to look for the nature of mind and not worry too much about emptiness. Okay? Because until we get a certain amount of stability in our meditation, it's very difficult to even begin to entertain emptiness. Because you have to have a certain amount of stability so that you can turn around and look at the watcher. Because usually what happens is as soon as we start to turn around and who's watching, it just goes away. Suddenly the watcher's looking at nothing, right? You can't. And so over time, if you just do the simple breathing meditation, or even if you're doing deity yoga and reciting a mantra, you gain more stability in that, in just what they call just resting in the clarity of your mind. Which means it takes a lot of relaxation, actually. And because we tend to have a thought, we hold on to the thought, and that's why it keeps going. And so that's why these metaphors of looking like mind is like the waves on the water, or thoughts are like the waves on the water, and the thoughts are what's moving, and it's the bare nature of the mind that is the water, Or the idea, I really like the mirror one, My mind is the mirror, and the thoughts are just the reflections in the mirror. Because then it helps you to understand that, what's going through your mind is not you, and it's not your mind. It's just a reflection that's coming from your sense perceptions, your sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, mind. You hear something, you smell something, you see something, you think something. And that those things are in actual fact just mere reflections. They are empty, but they're coming in out of something. What are they coming out of? They're coming out of the relative nature of your mind. And so it's very good to get just a handle on that before you try to think about the emptiness of it, So that's what I thought we would actually just do a little bit. So, and now that we've, said the Heart Sutra and then the Tara practice, because I'll just say a little bit more. In Buddhism, even though we're as complicated as it seems, it's actually pretty simple. And mainly what you need to attain enlightenment, besides a lot of, faith, and there's 3 types of faith, but the, clear faith that you have to know where you're going. You have to study to have that clear faith of what it is that you're doing. But there has to be also a certain amount of believing faith, believing that, knowing that if I do this, I'm going to get there. And I think for me, what helps me is the fact that we have realized beings alive today, which is what should inspire us to gain realizations. Because really, if I didn't know people like Nyingje Rinpoche and Kirti Sensei Rinpoche and the Dalai Lama, I wouldn't have faith in it. I wouldn't be able to believe in it because there's no, they're like living proof, They're like, okay, you cook the cake and it tastes good, It works. And they basically are saying that, okay, look, they don't say this, but we can see, I'm the example. They're not me, but they are the example of someone who's followed the path, maybe a few lifetimes, and they have experienced the result. And so it's because we have these living masters alive today, which is why I think Buddhism is so special, because we do have living masters alive today who will inspire us to want to become like them. Because they've realized that not only the relative nature of their mind, but the true nature of their mind, the emptiness of their own mind. And so it does take a certain amount of faith. But whenever, I'm a person who has doubts, And so especially when you're doing these hard things and trying to get through a retreat and, what am I doing this for? But if I think about my teachers, then I can continue to go along because I think, I've seen it with my own eyes. There is a result, So that's really important to help us persevere. And that's why you guys are fortunate. There's a little place in Puerto Rico. These guys come here. So you must be doing something right, You must have created some causes in your past lives. So why was I talking about faith? Oh, because I was saying Buddhism is not so difficult. Because really, we just need to, have the refuge, the faith, and then we have to purify the obstacles, take off the obscurations to seeing our Buddha nature, But then we have to create the cause to experience our Buddha nature, which is what we call making merit, accumulation. So we have to purify and accumulate, and then we have to make requests, because unless you can dedicate where you're going, you can have a great boat, but if you don't have a navigator and you can't say, I'm steering this course to there, what's the point of having a boat? So you want to get somewhere. And so when you're purifying, you're accumulating, and you make requests. And so you can make little baby step requests, like I'm requesting to do retreat next summer, or something like that, or I'm requesting to take teachings from the Dalai Lama next year. But you always have the big requests, which is, and there's this thing called the 3 great requests that we often do after a mandala offering. So we make requests to purify all the obstacles and to gain all the realizations. Excuse me. Purify all the wrong views. Because really it's our wrong views, that our misinterpretation of reality, that gives us trouble. If we really could see every experience as waves on the water, or, reflections in the mirror, life would be a breeze. It's just another reflection in the mirror, no big deal. But we believe that reflection to be real, and that's why we get into trouble. So we purify the wrong views, gain the realizations, and then we make requests to have no obstacles, And there's always going to be obstacles. So really what we need to do is know how to transform obstacles, or at least endure them till they're over with, And so this meditation on just looking at your mind it's actually, some Buddhist practitioners, that's all they do, is just sit and look at their breath and look at the nature of mind. But we have all these Vajrayana teachings and all these, mantras and deities, and sometimes you wonder, what's that all about if all I really want to do is just look at the nature of my mind? Why can't I just, be a Theravadan and look at my breath, and what's wrong with that, Because ultimately that, that is kind of what we do. But the reason is because, at least this is what we're told, that these Vajrayana practices create a lot of merit and purify a lot of obstacles. And so it's a fast way. And my experience in the retreats I've done, we hear all these amazing, things about having, single point of concentration on the deity and doing the advanced tumo and completion stage. And, so you go to do these long retreats. But really, my experience is that you do these Vajrayana retreats, but really the result is your Lamrim practice gets more strong, because you've created a lot of merit by saying those mantras, so that then the things like death and impermanence and perfect human rebirth become more powerful for you. Because it's one thing to study them, but it's another one to really feel it in your heart, And so I'm just sharing with you my experience is that it does, these Vajrayana practices do make a lot of merit, even as difficult as they are, but just the fact that we're attempting to do them is as best we can. Even Lama Tsongkhapa says, say you've got a big complicated deity with 34 arms and 16 legs and da-da-da-da, and he just says, well, if you can just see the color blue, good enough. So, the Lamas, it's just the main thing is, actually this is what I'm supposed to talk another night, so I'll stop. But the main thing is just you have faith and believe that it's happening, and it'll happen. So what I'd like to do in the time that we have left is we're just going to sit very, just sit and watch our breath and work with this idea of looking at your mind. And just, in the beginning, it's difficult because all you have is thoughts. But don't worry about it. Just sit and watch your thoughts. and watch your breath. And the main thing I think in this particular case, we're just going to watch our breath going in and our breath going out. Now, some people prefer to just watch the breath going out. So if that's what you want to do, you do that. But while that's going on, that's kind of like the stabilizing factor. You know, you're going to see thoughts going in your head. So just pay attention to them and bring your mind back. And we're going to do that. I think we'll sit and do that for 10 minutes, okay? And then we'll stop, and I'll talk a little bit more and go, okay? So how does that sound? And do I need to explain meditation posture, or are we all okay with that? I think we're all okay with that. One thing you can do is if you can put your hands like this. The right hand is in the left palm, and the thumbs touch together. And it's good to have them resting right here. And your arms out. You know, your arms are supposed to be out to the side. They're not supposed to be touching like this. Because the whole thing about meditation is the mind rides on the winds. And the winds are not just your breath, but your winds go all through your body. So the reason why, you know, you make the effort to sit in the lotus posture is that it stabilizes those winds. And your arms out to your side helps to stabilize the winds. Having your chin tucked in just a little bit opens up the back, because if you study Taoism, there's a energy flow that goes, you know, and so you keep the energy. That's why you put the tongue in the roof of the mouth, because that's why you do qigong, because if the energy is flowing smoothly, then it's much easier to relax your mind and not have so many crazy thoughts going. And like I said earlier, I find it very helpful if I just pay attention to the base of my spine. So what I do is I breathe in and I kind of feel the base of my spine, and then I just let go and breathe out. And you just let your breathing go naturally. And as you're breathing and breathing into your belly and paying attention to your spine, then you just sort of just pay attention to what's going on. Pay attention to your body and just pay attention. So let's do that. Maybe we'll make it 15 minutes. Okay? Oh yeah, can you do that? Yeah. I forgot to say, sometimes it's helpful to put a little smile on your face. It lifts the mind. And if you start to get sleepy, then rather than focusing on the base of your spine, you can bring the mind up to the top, the crown of the head. Focus on the crown of your head. And when you catch your mind wandering, just bring it back to focusing on the breath. There's no right or wrong. Don't think you're doing something wrong if your mind's wandering. That's the mind's nature. But just gently, in a nice, calm way, just bring your focus back to breathing. And we just do that over and over again. Oh, how's that? Was it hard? No? Hmm? Hmm. I find for me, and I'm wondering if you, I always feel my sense of self is bigger. Do you feel that? No? Your eyes more clear or your mind's more clear? Oh, that's very interesting. Anybody want to share a little bit what happened? Hmm. Relax? Oh, that's good. Hmm. Maybe it happens sometimes. It can happen because as you're more concentrating, you're not feeling as much in your body. Your arms too? Did they go to sleep or you just didn't feel them? Hmm, that's interesting. That's a good sign, actually. I guess. Yeah, you didn't. Because they talk about levels of dullness, you know. I don't know if you've ever studied the calm abiding teachings, but you can just kind of move into a dull state. And you don't really want to do that, you know. You want to have your mind more alert when that's going on. That's why I say bring the energy up. Because if you're just sort of getting into a dull, I don't know if that's what's happening, but then that is, I mean, that might be restful, but it's not exactly what we're looking for. I mean, um, and I mean, I just wonder, sometimes people are just really, we have a subject and an object, right? The object is what we're thinking about, and the subject is the me. And it seems like in the beginning you're more caught up in the things going out, but after a while, you really feel a sense of, you know, the watcher, you know. Because then, you see, when we talk about meditating on emptiness, it's that watcher that is the object to be refuted, you know, the finding that one that we want to be empty, you know. And because if you can get that, and when you experience that, it's like you're not there anymore, and it's kind of scary, you know. But most people takes a while. It takes a lot of study and practice for that. But it's just I think very helpful just to begin to identify the subject and the object, and the one that's watching the thoughts come and go, you know. And after a while, the thoughts, if they they're sort of like less gross, you know. They're just sort of like, in the beginning, it's like a mosquito that's bothering you, and after a while, it's just sort of like a little noise in the background or something. I don't know. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Right, excuse me. Can you all? Maybe he needs the. Yeah. Not all. Just give him the microphone. I think it's better. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it has to do with trying to enter in contact with the subtle mind
Mhm.
while doing mundane activities
Mhm.
at the same time. Uh, we're told that we have to practice mindfulness while we do normal things,
Mhm.
but it's like having a foot in one place, which is doing the mundane thing, and another trying to enter in contact with our soul or mind.
Mm-hmm.
What is one to do in those situations? Should we try to expand to be able to work in those two at the same time, or should one separate between in contact with our subtle mind and
Okay, I'm going to give you my answer. I don't know if it's the right answer, but what I would say to that is when we're doing mindfulness in daily activity, we don't want to be withdrawing in the subtle mind. Our mindfulness in daily activity is being present in what we're doing in the here and now. So it's not like we're trying to, I mean, if you're reciting mantras and it's kind of taking you away from, we don't want to be in two worlds. I think when we want to be dissolving into the subtle mind with like our tantric practice, that's just when we're sitting. But when we're actually in the world, we want to be mindful, but we want to be mindful present, not trying to be in our subtle mind and out there at the same time. Because then it's conflicting, like you're saying. It's not really helpful, because you're not really paying attention to what you're doing then, because you're also paying attention to what's, your subtle mind.
It's difficult. I saw that if one were supposed to be trying to expand to work in those two at the same time.
No, I don't think you're supposed to. I think you're supposed to do your subtle mind work when you're actually sitting on your cushion. But when you get up and you go out in the world, you want to be having mindfulness of what you're doing, but you want to be paying mindfulness of, now I'm lifting up my glass, because, it's kind of easy that way, but I find what it is usually, for me anyway, I might be doing something, but my mind's completely somewhere else, thinking about something else. And so the job is to try to keep the mind not from thinking about something else, but to be just present with what you're doing. So if you're going into your subtle mind, or if you're reciting mantras or something, you're not really being present, So I would say keep them separate. Keep your subtle mind practice for when you're meditating and, really going inside. But maybe for advanced practitioners that's okay, but I think for us, it's otherwise you could get in a car accident or something, No, I'm serious. I think we need to be here and now, and it's hard enough just to be practicing mindfulness out there to be trying to do 2 meditations at once, So that's how I would answer that question.
Thank you.
Yeah. But thank you for asking it, because it's a very good question. Who other questions? Yeah. Can you use the thing? I see you. Yeah.
Sometimes when I'm meditating, the thoughts that come into my mind are so interesting that
I know.
that I actually would like to stop and just write it down and then go back. And I didn't know if that's okay or not.
Yeah,
okay.
well, what happens to me is, particularly, if I'm doing something, quite often I have to just kind of write off the first part of my meditation, because it's the best time to get ideas for your job. So I just let myself do that, until that's done, and then I do my meditation, because it's like where your creative energy comes from. And it's not like we're in retreat with nothing going on. You've got a job and you've got to do this and that and the other, and all those good ideas come when you're meditating. So, I actually sometimes sit with a piece of paper, and I write them down, but then I get rid of them. Once it's written down, it's gone, and I can just go back to my meditation. So again, I'm no great advanced practitioner, but that's what I do. And you just can't help it, because it's like your best ideas come first thing in the morning when you're meditating. But then after a while, you just, okay, I've done that now. Now let's get on with my practice,
Also,
give her the...
sometimes I get very warm
Yeah.
in the process of when I practice. Why am I getting so warm?
Yeah, well, that's because that's okay. Just let it be warm, You don't have to worry about it too much. Hi. I forgot your name. What's your name? That's right, Jose, yeah. Okay. Yeah, tell me your name, then I can learn your name. What's your name? Oh, okay.
You'll never forget. You'll never forget. just say Jose and everybody say here.
Or
here
in Spain, everyone's Juan. Yeah. Okay.
Well, in meditating, I felt a little bit
I think I'd put it close.
In meditating, I feel like the body is relaxed, but that's on the body side. On the mind side, it's at the beginning, a while ago, it was like crazy, like the yogis. Then it goes a little bit slower and slower, and you feel like you're in a trap.
Like a what?
In a trap.
A trap.
Yes, because the thoughts are slower and slower every time, and you feel like in nowhere to go. Okay, and it's a little bit scary, but it's the more scary stuff is that sometimes it disappears, and you see like nothing. So the question is, where do I go from there?
Well, is it you see nothing, or is it that your experience of yourself is nothing?
It's like seeing nothing.
I think what's happening is you're getting into the dullness state. So I think what you should do is you should lift your mind up a little bit, and give. I mean, it's hard to explain these things in words, but you want to give more energy to your meditation. You want to give more brightness to it, like you want to turn the light on. And yes, exactly. Who said breath? Yeah, and like go back to your breathing and make sure you're still breathing without maybe your breathing's really, really, really subtle.
It's like the thoughts disappear.
Yeah. Well, that's not bad.
So when they disappear, I keep breathing.
You just keep breathing.
I'm still breathing.
Yeah,
I know that.
you still keep breathing.
I know that
If
for
you-
a fact.
It might be a good time to try some analytical meditation at that point on looking for the I. You know, you've done that meditation looking for the I. We've all, right?
Yes.
Well, okay. Well, we'll do that. We won't do. Well, we might do that today, but I think that would be a good time to do that.
Okay.
So, kind of bring your meditation up, and when it's in that calm, because this is what the Lamas say: when your mind stops, when the objective starts stop, that's when you can turn around and start investigating. Where's the I?
Okay.
You know, is the I one with my body? Is my I, myself, separate from my body? Where is my I? You know, and do the analysis. Because if it was one with my body, then it would be my body's body. If it was separate, and then because that's the perfect time to start meditating on emptiness.
Okay.
But just make sure you're not in a half asleep state.
No, I'm not.
You know, that sounds good. I think you're making progress.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
I think I feel like.
Yeah.
I think I felt what he said.
Yeah. Your name?
Oh, my name is Miguel.
Miguel.
No,
Hola.
my dad is Jose. Okay, but I think I felt just what he said. That's what I was trying to say. But when you're at that, when you feel like you don't want to get in that dull mode, you said, but you should pay attention to your breathing, because I felt like my breathing was like, it was small, you know. You know, it was really short.
Yeah, there's this thing they talk about in meditation called clarity. And in the beginning, it's kind of hard to get what it means. But it means brightness, you know. It means, it doesn't even mean brightness. It means, it's hard to explain, but it's like putting things into focus. It's a little bit like, not that it's actually it's not that it's like the vision is out of focus, but it's like your awareness is a little bit out of focus. So you want to, it's hard to explain it, but it just want to brighten it up. And then that's a good time to do, like I was telling Jose, some analysis, a little bit of analysis. You know, and I wanted to, I'll share these with you now. You might want to write them down. But these are metaphors that were given by the great Mahasiddha Sarha, you know, who lived probably 2,000 years ago. But they're my favorite metaphors for working with their mind in meditation to get just the right, for lack of a better word, like color and brightness. If you're a photographer, you know, and you were back in the old days when we had dark rooms, you know, and you were trying to get the color just right and the intensity just right and the brightness just right and the focus just right. Your meditation is like that. They're all the, you know, even though it's untangible, but still within your mind you can do these things. You can get the brightness right, the focus right, So these metaphors are for doing that, and I really like them. I was going to do it while we were meditating. Well, first I'll give them to you, and then we'll see how many more questions we have, and we'll see what happens. But the first one is called The Sun Unobscured by Clouds. So that is for the brightness. It's like a sunny day with no clouds in the sky. And that's what we're talking about. That's what I'm trying to talk about. Because what happens is, a lot of times when you're meditating, slowly a little bit of cloud cover comes, and you don't really quite notice it. You're just a little bit dull. So it's like cleaning the cobwebs. You want to clean the window. You want to make it kind of, zing, like you had a cup, like your mind. Not coffee. Coffee makes you jittery, but just kind of coffee does give you a bit of clarity. If you could just get the clarity, not the zinginess, it'd be great. And some green teas are like that. They make your mind really clear. And then the other one is the sun unobscured by clouds is what it was. The second one is called the flight of the Garuda bird. It could be any bird, but it's the flight of the bird. But the Garuda bird, the reason they use that is because that bird was supposed to just like flap its wings and then fly. They don't like flap, 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 flap. And it's for the right effort, because what both Jose and Miguel were talking about, and you too to a certain extent, is you have to get the right effort there. You have to have a certain amount of tension for it to be, but not too loose. Not too loose. They talk about the perfect tuning on the guitar string. Not too tight, not too loose. So, because if you just sit there and look at your mind, it can get duller and duller and duller. But if you're constantly readjusting it, then you get agitated and you get too tight. So it has to be, it's not easy. You have to get the right effort there. And it just comes through a lot of practice. And the next one I like too. They're all very nice. The ocean when there's no waves on the ocean. So this is the stillness of the ocean without waves. And I think that's what Jose was talking about. He was getting to the point where he can have the stillness of the ocean without the waves. So what do you do there? You brighten it up and start looking for the eye, And then after you can't find the eye, that's when you can do the alternating between analytical and stabilizing meditation. So once you've brightened it up, then you stabilize again on your object of meditation, whether you're looking at the mind, watching your breath, looking for the eye. There are many objects you can have. But these metaphors apply to anything because it's dealing with what the subjective mind is working on, not what you're seeing, Huh? Yeah, well, wait, I'll finish, then we'll go back. So then, can you remember it? Okay. And then this one applies more to visualization and tantric practice, because if you're looking at your breath, there's nothing to see. But the third one is called A Child Looking at a Temple Murals. And if you've ever been to Tibet, inside the temples, they're just deities everywhere. And when a child looks at it, it doesn't discriminate. It just, just sees, Because what we tend to do, particularly in our tantric practice, we can get into the details too much. And we can start stressing to see it. And our minds get very tight, and we get what we call lung, So the idea is, just relax, You just see what you see. You just feel what you feel. You don't try to analyze too much. It has to be a more spacious, kind of thing. Like, when people are first beginning to drive, they're like, you got to do this, and it's really hard, but after a while you can just cruise down the road. Because we get like that when meditating. We get way into, trying to make it too perfect. Don't worry about it being perfect. Just worry about not getting too dull or too agitated, but try not to, the thing you're focusing on, don't focus too much. Just let it be. So then the fourth one says the bird leaving no trail as it flies. So that's the one that, I didn't get your name, Linda. So Linda and I like to follow the bird instead of letting it leave no trail. We want to go with the bird wherever it's going, And maybe you can allow yourself to do that a little bit when a great idea comes, Because for me, if I don't write it down, by the time I'm finished meditating, I've completely lost it, And part of that's a function of age, but But so that's important. You know, if the thought comes, look at just it's the waves on the water and bring your mind back to the breath. You know. And then this one I really like too, and it goes back to the effort again. They say the best cotton thread, because best cotton thread, cotton. Because back then, you know, they used to hand spin all the cotton. It was all hand spun. And so a hand spun cotton had to be very strong. But it couldn't be hard. But it has to be soft because you want your cloth to be soft. So you want it to be strong, but soft. So that's kind of the way we want to deal with our mind. You know, we want to be okay, but not too hard. We have to be very easy with ourselves, right? Don't you love those? I just think they're really, really beautiful. And then there's one more that doesn't come from Sarha, but you hear all the time, is that the idea of in the old days when they had ships, and they would always have a crow on the ship, the crow's nest, you know, because if the crow didn't come back, there would be land, but generally the crow would come back. So it's sort of like, don't worry. If you're off planning your day, you know, the crow will eventually come back. You know, so don't get, the main thing is just not get too uptight about it all, you know. I mean, you're just doing the best you can, and you just want to be aware. And that's why the mindfulness in the break time is important, because when you do a retreat, the break time is actually is more important than the session time, because what I find, if you work really hard in your session time, when your break time comes, you can't do anything. You're just like, bleh, you know. And then you have no mindfulness at all. You just, I mean, I get like that a lot, because these sadhanas are just so long and hard. You know, it's better to start with a short one, so that in the break time you can maintain some kind of mindfulness. You're not too exhausted. So it's really important not to get exhausted. You know, I mean, Lama Yeshe used to tell people that if you go to work all day and you come home, you've got all this list of commitments and stuff. He used to say it's better to just lie down on the couch and meditate on bodhicitta, you know, than to do all this and you get all, you know. So I don't know how that works with keeping our commitments, but that's what he said. You know, it's actually better to just keep the experience and the feeling of an open heart and mindfulness alive throughout the day as best as you can. Because, like I said before, we're creating habits. We want to make new habits. And so that's why in the break time, and when we're out in the world, try to keep it going, you know. Try to bring the mind back. Try to notice when you're daydreaming. Try to notice when you're driving. Am I paying attention to my driving, or where am I going? You know, when I'm at the grocery store, am I buying groceries or am I planning dinner? You know, when I'm cooking dinner, am I cooking dinner or am I thinking about tomorrow? You know, it's hard to do. And especially in this day and age, we have to multitask everything. Oh, hi, I remember you. You know, we have to multitask and do all these things. So it's sort of like the modern world and the life of meditation, they're really not very conducive, you know. But anyway, so what was your question? And what's your name again? Javier. Oh, yeah, I remember. Now I'm beginning to remember. Yeah. Yeah.
I have this, sometimes I experience like I lost like the sense of vision, like everything turns like blurred or white, of the things doesn't, I stop seeing the shapes.
When you're meditating or when you're not meditating?
When I'm meditating.
Yeah.
And I want to ask, should I stay there or should I try to get focused
I think
again?
you should take a break.
It happens quickly.
It does?
Yeah. Everything turns like everything white.
It seems like maybe you're being absorbed too much then. I don't know. You know, I don't really know the answer. I never had that experience, so it's hard for me to.
Wait, should I stay there or should I try to focus again and?
I think you should try to.
Brings everything back, the colors.
It's like you're sitting. It's just. I mean, is it when you're saying prayers or just if you're watching your breath?
No, in meditation. In shamatha.
Yeah.
Like everything turns like white.
Yeah.
And I can see only the shape, but don't see the colors.
I think he's just watching your breath at that point, right? Shamatha.
Yeah.
So you're not trying to visualize anything, and you're not saying a mantra.
No.
Yeah, calm abiding. That's what he said. Shamatha is calm abiding. So I think, Yeah, but I don't know. Maybe you're absorbing already. I really don't know, I'm sorry,
Me
but
neither.
I think the thing to do is just try experimenting, like I said, making the clarity, like breathing more or trying to be more, because it sounds to me like what's happening is it's a form of dullness. Like you're immediately going down,
Sometimes I think that I making too many effort of the vision.
Yeah.
Of the
Why don't
sense
you
of
try
vision.
closing your eyes for a while, see what happens?
Yeah, I do that too.
Well, what
But,
happens when you close your eyes?
I don't know. I get thinking.
Yeah. I don't know. Sorry, I don't really know what to say to that. I never had that experience. But do you want to answer? You think you have an answer? Yeah. Veronica can't hear you. Hmm? Yeah. Well, wait, she's going to answer. She has some ideas.
Okay. No. Are we talking? Do you hear me now?
Yeah, but hold it really close.
Okay. It's just the difference between calm abiding meditation and the focus meditation that is called
Analytical meditation?
Yeah, the one that you just use one point.
Mm-hmm.
And I like when I try to just relax because whatever I have too much stress, too much studying, things going on, I just use the calm abiding. I just try to relax, and if I put a happy face, I'll feel happy also. But if I have a situation, I will definitely just go into the analyzing on one point and going towards emptiness. That is a different meditation. I just wanted to ask you if when we think about space, like, we have been told that you can think about space, an ample space. I wanted you to, besides looking for clarity, light, white color, yellow color, I just wanted to, I don't know if you're going to teach in the following instructions that you're going to give in the next week about either Mahamudra or emptiness meditation. If we're too short for that, could you bear in mind this question about Mahamudra, the difference between Mahamudra meditation and emptiness?
There's no difference.
There's no difference? Okay, and can you talk later maybe about what to think or what to look if you're to meditate in emptiness?
Yeah, well, we've been talking about it, but I thought you were going to talk to, maybe I'm just concerned about his vision blurring. So maybe you need to do some analysis at that point, and that might bring you out of that. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe you're looking too much. I don't know. I'll think about it. Anyway, sorry.
Hi.
And you are?
Jose again.
Oh,
No,
no. Carlos, okay.
So I want to share something that happens to me when I was 12. I had this kind of doubt about it my whole life. But I feel that it's like the right place to ask for this situation. My father was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
I was 12 years ago. I was 12 years old. And the suffering was very huge.
It is. It is very huge.
That night, I take off my clothes, go to the bathroom, put a towel. I was 12 years old. And I sit in that position. I close my eyes because I just want to escape from that like prison because it was very tough. When I close my eyes, I feel some kind of ball of fire that is going up,
Cool.
up, and it was a kind of grateful feeling like there's nothing more in life. But I begin to scare,
Yes.
and I do like, it was a split of a second.
Yeah.
What was that?
I think what happened was I had something like that happen to me actually when I was 14, and I can't say for sure because I don't have clairvoyance, But what I would say is that you have very strong past life imprints of meditation, and and because you were experiencing such like, I'm suffering, I want to get out. It's such suffering. Yes, that karma ripened for you to have a beginning of a profound meditation experience. But because you were only 12 and you didn't know what was going on, it terrified you and you pulled out of it. That happened to me too. And it took me years to figure out that's what I think happened. And so that's probably why you're here now, because you have a karma to be here. And it wasn't a bad thing. It was just too advanced for you at the moment. But it sounds like it's some kind of, the winds were entering the Central Channel.
It's advanced today.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that okay? Is that a good answer? Yeah.
We have 2 questions.
Yeah, and I have
Did you have something?
Alberto's questions too.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of them is, can you explain one more time the details of the visualization of receiving the nectar and rays from Buddha?
Yeah, that's a good one. Everyone needs to know that. Okay, when you take refuge, well, we're gonna do this in detail this weekend, aren't we? Doing
Okay.
refuge. What did you? Yeah, when we do refuge, we're going to do that in great detail. So whoever that is, come when we do refuge, because
Okay,
it's already 6 o'clock. So
Okay, and another one was, my mother has been abusive to me, and I don't want to visualize her next to me. It disturbs my meditation. What can I do?
Oh gosh, that's so sad. Everybody has that. So many people have that. So many people have that. And we could talk a whole hour on that. So maybe we should do that too. But basically, anyway, you don't have to have your mother there now. But it's really important to do a lot of loving kindness meditation for yourself. Oh, you're still with her? Oh, God. Yeah, it is really tough. Oh. Yeah. She lives with you. She has to live with you?
No, I'm an only. Can you listen to me?
Yeah.
I am an only child, so I have to deal with her.
Yeah.
But she's mentally ill and very obsessed. It's a long
Yeah.
story.
Oh, that's a really difficult situation.
So when they tell me, okay, you have to see your mother in every soul, I said, oh my God. Like at the beginning when you said you have to imagine your mother, I said,
Yeah.
I came to escape.
Yeah.
Why should I be dealing
Yeah,
with her?
no,
again?
listen.
Really?
Yeah.
I got to a point where I said I might need to get out of
Yeah.
the room and wait outside for him to do it. Because
Yeah, no, listen, these teachings were made a long time ago when people's mothers the world was a different world 2,000 years ago, But do you have support group? Do you have people who help you? Do you have friends?
him,
Yeah.
he's very patient, and when I cannot deal, he goes and deals with
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, you have to just do a lot of compassion meditation for your mother and a lot of compassion for yourself, and be away from her as much as you can. Unfortunately, Veronica she knows a lot about that too, but it gets to a point, abusive people, you just have to stay away from them. But if it's your mother, you can't, So you have to just be patient, and it's tough, and you can use as many, we could go into this but there are a lot of different things you can do. Do you know the practice of Tonlen? We'll come back again because we're supposed to finish, but maybe have it as private appointment. Why don't you set up to have a private appointment with me? Yeah, and we can have a private appointment because there's lots of things you can do. You can do Tonlen and patience and things, but it still doesn't make it go away.
And she's very healthy, she's 84.
So it's not like she's going to die.
She's the youngest child.
Yeah.
8 brothers, and they're all alive.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I have 10, 15 more years of this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, I understand.
And I feel guilty that I
No,
say
don't feel guilty, It's reality.
But it's not like it's going to end
Yeah.
anytime soon.
What's your name?
Gloria.
Gloria. Well, Gloria, you have a heavy cross to bear. That's all I can say, and you need more than one friend. because he'll get tired. Yeah. Hey, wait, give it the...
In the case that since we Westerns have situations
You have
like
to hold
that,
it really close.
since us Westerners, we have situations like that more
Yeah.
often,
Yeah.
maybe it's good to visualize instead of a mother, somebody who has been kind
Exactly.
and loving to you.
Maybe
That's
sometimes
that's
it's
the
a
meaning.
grandmother, you know.
That's what the practice called for.
Yeah.
Now, in that time, a mother is supposed to be loving and kind.
Yeah.
In some cases, it doesn't work like that. But a mother is not a physical mother.
Well,
Something
and
that goes beyond. So try to look for somebody.
yeah, exactly. That's a very good point. And the other thing, I mean, even though she's really difficult now, they say in the teachings, you know, it's good to remember, at least, you know, when you were a baby, she fed you. She didn't leave you out she didn't put you in an orphanage. You have to remember the good things your mother did for you. If you can just try to hold on to that certainly when you were young, at least, you know, you went to school, you had enough food to eat, you know, yeah. Yeah, that doesn't help. Yeah. No, okay, I understand. Yeah. Yeah, anyway, do we need to stop or can we, Alfredo had some, not Alfredo, Alberto had a few questions. Yes. Okay, they're quick. So he said, isn't in regards to the true nature, he's listening somewhere, I think. In regard to the true nature of mind, is it necessary to go into retreat to actually experience it? Well, that depends on, it's an individual, you know. People who have a lot of past life karma, it's not necessary. But it certainly helps to go into retreat and not have distractions, you know. I think it's easier. But I do think that living in the world, if you do practice every day, you know, some of you already have experiences where your minds are stopped, you know, the thinking stopped, and you can just rest in that, you know. And if you can rest in that, then you can also begin, like I said, to do the analysis of where's the I. But you really, before you can actually get, I think anyway, have a good foundation for meditating on emptiness, is you have to get to the relative nature of mind first. Because otherwise you don't have the stability to look for the I. So besides retreat, what are other necessary conditions for one to experience the true nature of mind? Well, I would say, first of all, guru devotion, you know. Really powerful guru devotion, because the more devotion you have, the faster the pace. Guru devotion and the time to meditate. And if you can purify and accumulate, like do things like the nundros, then the more nundro you can do, the more guru devotion you have, then the easier these things come, you know. And then there's once one has had a glimpse of mind's true nature, what needs to be done so that the experience is not lost, is sustained and kept stable? Well, you have to continue to practice. You have to have pure morality. You know, because if you're always doing strange things, or if you're in, then if you're in a situation like she's in, you know, it's very, very difficult. So you need to put yourself in the right environment, so people aren't harming you and you aren't harming others. Because when you're in a difficult situation like that, it's so hard to calm the mind. You're just constantly distracted and full of anger and hatred, and sometimes you just have to withdraw yourself from those situations, you know. I don't know. So then the last one is, given that we're talking about an experience that is beyond concepts, how does one know that one has had an actual experience of the true nature of mind? It could be confused with some other mental state. What would it feel like or look like? Well, I don't think it's that hard to get to the relative nature of mind, but if you're talking about the true nature of mind, which is emptiness, I think you have to really be under the guidance of a qualified master, you know, that you can check with them, someone who can read your own mind. And I had an experience with Kirti Centro Rinpoche one time when I was in my last, you all know Kirti Centro Rinpoche. And he was so kind when I was doing this great Yamantaka retreat. I don't know if it was coincidence or what, but he came every year to Vajrapani Institute, so I would leave my retreat and go to teachings. And it was about the third year, and I'm like God, I'm sitting here all day long meditating on emptiness. Do I have the right view? You know, am I just wasting my time? You know, what am I doing? And you're never supposed to, and it was the last year he was there, and he wasn't taking any interviews, so I couldn't go to ask him. And I was just like dying, you know, what am I going to do? And I didn't want to speak out because, you know, you don't want to ask things like that, and I wasn't talking to anyone because I was in retreat, but I just, you know, had to know, you know, did I have the right one, you know? And I was sitting there, and I raised my hand, you know, I finally raised my hand, it was like last day, and he just looked at me, and he answered my question. I didn't have to ask anything. He just knew exactly what I wanted to ask. And he just said, he said, getting the right view is a very gradual process. He said, first, you know, you've heard this before, first you get the generic image, you know, and what I wanted to know was my generic image the right one? But I think just the fact that he said, first you get the generic image, and then slowly, slowly, slowly over the years, it becomes more and more and more real, more and more reality, until one day, you know, you penetrate through the conceptual mind and you have the real experience of emptiness. So basically he said, you got it, just keep going. And I really don't think it's that difficult to get the generic image. Because it's just an analysis. You're all studying Madhyamika, you know. If you can get the right view intellectually, it's just to transform that from the generic image, you know, from the intellectual image, the conceptual, into the non-conceptual, and that just takes hours and hours of meditation and making merit. One day it just you know, because you can see it gets strong. It's like the concept, the I. It's not like some people say there's instant enlightenment. But you can notice over the years, am I more flexible? When somebody yells at me, when somebody's angry at me, do I get as upset as I used to? If I see something that I really want, can I back away from that? That means that it's working. It's not going to happen overnight. But over the years, if you look and you see, are your delusions a little bit less? You know, do I have more control? Am I able to just like, oh, that's just that one, you know, it's just a wave on the water, dear, you know. Now, some of the big ones, you know, like your mother dies or your husband leaves you, you know, those are going to be bigger ones. But the littler ones, you know, you can kind of, you know, oh, there's that piece of candy. Do I really want that candy? You know, it's like, no. And it's really easy to let go. And that's how you know that you do have the right view. Because if you can learn to let go of my needs, my, me, my, I, you know, that's what it's all about. But when you go me, my, I, and it's not such a big deal, it's not this big stick in it, like, you know, like it, I, you know. But if it's I, oh right, that's the thing that's what doesn't exist. You know, if you keep, whenever, I mean, that's the thing, you have to do this all day long, you know, when something comes along, when something comes up that you don't like, you know, oh, there's that thing that doesn't truly exist. And even though it's, you know, you might not have the real experience of the fact that you're constantly telling yourself and try to like put space there. You know, we can put space there instead of the I, you know. And that's where the sitting meditation, just looking at the nature of mind comes, because you can remember, all right, this experience is just the wave on the water. Now what's the water? You know, this is just the reflection in the mirror. I'm going to identify with the mirror right now instead of the reflection in the mirror. And slowly, slowly over time, you know, it gets, and that's what the Dalai Lama says, just look back over the years. Are you more flexible? Is your behavior, are you more kind? Are you able to think of others? All that depends on meditating on emptiness. You know, I mean, you can't, renunciation, bodhicitta, right view, they're like three sides of the same thing. They all work together, you know. You can't really have renunciation until you have emptiness, because you can't let go without emptiness. You can't begin to cherish others more than yourself until the self isn't so huge anymore. So I think we think emptiness is harder than it is, because we expect to get it right away. But we're not going to get it, you know, but we can get little baby steps. And so then we should just be happy with that, you know. So it's with that, let's dedicate, right? And save your questions, I'll be back, and we'll just, you know. And, you know, even if we're doing something on refuge, you can ask a question about anything. And I'll just do the best I can. Okay? So let's do the dedication, huh?
Que por los méritos de esta virtud pueda alcanzar rápidamente el estado de un Guru Buda y pueda llevar este estado a todo ser sin excepción. La mente de iluminación es suprema y muy preciada, que donde no ha surgido surja, que donde ha surgido no disminuya, que cobre cada vez más fuerza. La visión correcta del vacío es suprema y muy preciada, que donde no ha surgido surja, que donde ha surgido no disminuya, que cobre cada vez más fuerza. Así como el valiente Manjusri y Samantabhadra distinguieron los fenómenos tal cual son, yo también dedico estos méritos en la mejor forma, siguiendo su ejemplo perfecto. Dedico todas estas raíces de virtud con la dedicación que es considerada la mejor por los victoriosos asidos de los 3 tiempos para poder realizar todas las buenas obras. Madre Tare, liberando del samsara, tu Tare, liberando de los 8 temores, Tara, Madre que libera, por favor otorga el don de la longevidad, por las bendiciones de los gurús raíces del linaje, por los logros espirituales de los Yidam, dioses y diosas, por los métodos hábiles de las Dakinis y los protectores del Dharma, que podamos realizar gozosamente la esencia de nuestras esperanzas. Que en un Tenzin eres afable, benevolente y bondadoso. Por favor, permanece con nosotros durante una larga vida. Expande tus actividades iluminadas en todas las direcciones y continúa madurando y sustentándonos a mí y a todos los seres sintientes. Desde este momento y durante todas nuestras vidas, manténnos bajo tu tutela. Sé nuestro amigo, nuestro divino y virtuoso guía. Limpia la degeneración de la ignorancia. Ayúdanos a realizar rápidamente nuestro recorrido por los senderos y caminos y alcanzar el cuerpo de un Buda, por la verdad de la realidad incambiable y por la bendición conjunta de la indestructible Sangha, que la esencia de estas oraciones se logre rápidamente.
Okay, gracias. Thank you. We see you Tuesday night. 7 o'clock.
El martes a las 7 nos volvemos a encontrar. Vamos a aclarar algo. El martes vamos a tener la enseñanza, pero es para las personas que tengan alguna iniciación tántrica, ya sea Balokiteshvara, Tara, cualquiera. ¿Ok? Pero tiene que estar iniciado en una de las deidades tántricas, ¿ok? No, solamente las ofrendas vamos a recoger. Exacto, todo.